You know, the Rainbow Farm incident is one of the ugliest things that's ever happened in my lifetime. It's just such an awful, ugly thing.
Two guys try to be activists in Michigan. They lose their farm, they lose their legal, business, they lose their son, and then they lose their lives, just because of, marijuana.
It was part of this historical thing in Michigan of people trying to go beyond the envelope and do interesting things like we used to do in the 60s and 70s. Here these guys were in the 90s,
5 years later, we have Burning Rainbow Farm. This story should have been wrapped up at the 5-year point. It's now just starting to be told. And that's why the book's so important, is because this story has not been told.
We're across the street from the Seattle Post-Intelligencer. They can practically report on this from their building. But where are they?
What's up, guys?
They've treated my book really nicely, but they should have some people down here interviewing people about what they're doing here, why they come here, if they think they're at risk for being here, what this means to them. Have they heard of Rainbow Farm? We are backstage right now at the main stage at the Seattle Hemp Fest. As John Sinclair told me, all good people, not like they say.
I want you to give a warm Seattle welcome to Dean Kuipers. He came a long way. All right, thank you, Debbie, and hello, Seattle Hemp Fest.
This is a story of two guys named Tom Crosland and Raleigh Rome who gave their lives in the war on drugs, literally. So this is a forfeiture story. Probably all of you are familiar with the idea of drug asset forfeiture, but if they bust you for drugs, a lot of times they can take things from you. They can take the farm where you live, they can take your car that you're driving in, they can take a lot of stuff. But in 2001, Tom and Raleigh grew some weed in their basement. Probably not a very smart thing to do for two guys who were at that point the leaders and the two most prominent hemp activists in the state of Michigan, but they did. And 3 months later, they had their first hearing for the forfeiture proceedings, which were going forward. And basically that day, August 31st, they were going to lose their farm. And Tom and Raleigh said, well, over our dead body. And that morning, they burned Rainbow Farm to the ground. That turned into a standoff. The FBI arrived on the scene, and they put snipers in the woods. They put snipers on Tom's own property, and while he was walking back from the neighbor's house with a coffee pot one day with his rifle in his hand, he encountered 3 of these agents who jumped out from behind a tree and promptly shot him in the forehead.
This is the devastating effects of what, of the depth of the prosecutors and DA's tool bag, like what all the stuff they can actually use against you in the United States of America. They come in, they take your property, they take your child, they can close your legal business, they can stop hemp fests like this, and then they can kill you.
You have to imagine the shock for people who used to go to a place like Rainbow Farm when this is what they did there. Like, this is the crime. The crime was they walked around, they looked at bongs, they bought a really badly screen-printed t-shirt, and they listened to some people speaking, they're exercising their First Amendment right to tell you about weed, and then they come in and they kill the guys.
After making a fair amount of money in the real estate market down in Elkhart, Indiana, Tom Crosland and his lover, Raleigh Rome, bought 54 acres in Michigan, pretty beautiful spot. It became like this sort of community collective right away. By '97, it was a pretty big festival. They had 2 a year called Hemp Aid and Roach Roast, and they would have 3,000 to 5,000 people come out. Pretty soon they started booking like Big Brother and the Holding Company, Merle Haggard, Tommy Chong. It was really getting some notoriety. And the local prosecutor there, who was trying to do what probably any prosecutor would do in his situation, is control it or try to figure out some way to not let drugs sort of blow all over his county, started sending letters to Tom. He didn't ever really go talk to him or anything. He just would send him these terse little letters that were like 1 paragraph. And in '99, he sent him a letter that really got under Tom's skin that said, actually, I'll take the farm. This made Tom furious, and he was the kind of guy who would fight anything. I saw this story in the Kalamazoo Gazette in 2001, just to basically a week after it happened in the Sunday Gazette. And I knew I had to write about this right away because it was my home community.
These guys stood up for something they believed, and they really martyred themselves. In my view, they martyred themselves. Of all people I've ever known, they martyred themselves. And then they were blacked out by the 9/11 bombing.
CNN was out there, Rolling Stone had a guy out there, all the wire services were out there, TV people were out there like crazy. But then 9/11 happened, and then it all just went away. The whole drug war toolkit that's available to a prosecutor was designed to get the bad guys. You know, Colombian drug lords, you know, organized crime, so there's things like forfeiture that they can use because if somebody's running cocaine in from Colombia, they can seize the boat. But for a guy like Tom Crosland, who's trying to change the pot laws in the open and running a ballot initiative and stuff in Michigan, you take his farm. I don't think that the community is really behind the idea that, oh yeah, we should snuff that guy out and take his farm and take his child, and that those laws were on the books and you should use them against a guy like that who's trying to talk to the community.
They're banking on safety and numbers. Rainbow Farm is evidence that that doesn't always work.